The first comment I see is, we won. Holy crap. The Broncos get the 31-28 victory over the Los Angeles Chargers. What a fun second half of football, gentlemen. We've got DMac, James Merrill, Rachel Veal hanging out with you here for our post-game live. DMac, you were at the game. This was actually a fun one to be at, despite them, I think, lying about the 60,000 in attendance.
Yeah, they said the no-shows were like 13,202. I took a photo of the game when it was tied at 7 in the first quarter, and yeah, okay. Listen, I'll tell you, those that were there, the weather was really nice, and it was an exciting game to be at. No doubt about it. I think people took a lot of pride being there. We saw more jerseys of non-participating teams. Like there were like Minnesota Vikings Justin Jefferson jerseys, Green Bay Packers hats. What we figured out is so many Broncos fans who weren't going just gave the tickets to their friends who wouldn't normally go to a Broncos game, and they just wanted to represent the team they actually represented. So I'll tell you this. Props to the fans. Those that were there wanted to be there. They were enthusiastic about it. And you saw an exciting football game. Now, what the Chargers are thinking and Brandon Staley, I have no idea. I mean, I have no clue at all what that dude is thinking. And you probably, if you're the Chargers and Staley, did more harm to your team than good.
Fair enough.
We'll see. You know what? We'll find out next week. If his team comes out and they look sharp against Jacksonville, then, are we all going to backtrack and apologize to Brandon Staley? All the people who piled on all throughout the game on Twitter. If his team comes out and they're sharp and they win at Jacksonville,
sure,
he did the right thing. I mean, the lack of competitiveness that so many people have. Like, you're in the game, you're there, everybody's on the field, everybody's in uniform. Go try to win the damn game. The number of people who just want to shut everybody down. How did that work for Nathaniel Hackett this year? How did bubble wrap work for Nathaniel Hackett? Like, how much evidence do we need?
Time out, man. There's a difference between, and if you wanted to play your starters for a good chunk of the first half, I mean, okay, whatever. This is a Chargers issue. We'll see if it works out for them. I thought the risk was, absurd, but whatever. Jerry Rosberg goes out as a hero. You can't. I can't wait to hear what he's got to say. And Russell Wilson. Guys, it was bad for a huge chunk of that game. At one point, he was 2 of 9 for 3 yards. Bad. But hey, where's this, Russ? Rolling left, flipping your hips like a shortstop throwing a bullet across the diamond to Jerry Jeudy. Wow. Like out of nowhere, you got something like that. And if there's any doubts who the best player on the Denver Broncos, it was answered. Today is Jerry Jeudy by a mile. And so, all right, that's awesome. 5 catches for 154 yards. Dude, what a game by Jerry Jeudy.
And I think we learned the answer is that Nathaniel Hackett was essentially the problem for this Denver Broncos team. So here's a fun little question.
We didn't learn that, Rachel. That's not what we learned. But
how
go
did
ahead.
we learn it? Wait a minute,
oh, my Lord.
Come on.
Hey, if you want to talk about ridiculous, I can feel it right now. People are going to put way too much into this particular game. That meant nothing.
Okay.
It's a preseason game, y'all.
2 games in a row.
Yeah, they looked way better. We saw an actual offense that was able to go out there and look like an NFL offense.
Heaven forbid they would have made this move 6 weeks ago when we all knew Nathaniel Hackett was terrible. That would have been a mistake because, in-season coaching changes. There's no point to them.
And nobody was banging the table harder than I was to make a change at the bye week because I thought the Broncos could still possibly be a playoff team. Now, just get it out of your system about everybody who loves Russell Wilson and how great this is going to translate into next year. You might as well get it out of your system now. And you know what? There's enough from this game. It's going to be, okay, here we go. Have fun with it. We'll see you in training camp.
So when Russell Wilson plays crappy,
here we go.
When Russell Wilson plays good, we can't count it. Gee, the Little League mom keeping score. Come on now.
Keep going. You cannot be done with that. Keep going. Keep going.
I don't think he played well today.
He played abysmal, and they were Tim Tebowing the offense because he had 9 passing attempts to like 20 rushing attempts. Okay, it finished up 24 passing attempts, 36 rushing attempts.
283 yards, 3 touchdowns. He was 13 of 24. He had a 118.6 quarterback rating, and we're going to say Tim Tebowed it. We're not.
Well, they were. No, but James, they weren't. It was completely Tim Tebow offense for the first half of the game.
Well, hell, sign me up for it then. Give me 17 weeks of that next year. Sign me up.
Keep going. Keep going.
You wouldn't take that? Let's see. 286 yards times 17. I'll just make it 300. The math's going to be easier. That's 5,100 yards and 51 touchdowns. Yeah, I'll take that. I mean, come on now, DMac. You're not going to get
because every team is going to be the Chargers defense in week 18 with nothing to play for. Right. Good job breaking that down.
Okay.
Listen, man.
Well, you just ripped Brandon Staley for having all his starters out there. So which is it?
It's a little bit of both, baby.
No, you can't play that.
That's what it is.
Find the moment where he was the stretch where he was 2 for 9 for 13 yards and focus on that and not worry about the whole game. Okay, we could go through any game today. I'll bet I can find a stretch where Josh Allen was 2 for 8 today at one point during the game. Let's focus on that. I mean, talk about just finding the thing that suits your narrative. I mean, come on now.
Keep going, James. You can't be done. Come on, you Russell Wilson lovers.
Keep
going.
You want to stay on this island? You can stay on the island if you want, but I just pulled
on the island.
I pulled the shore with the landing craft. I put down the front thing, and I'm waving you on. Get on the bandwagon. Come on, Team Russ. You want to, DMac. It's not like a hater.
You got to give credit. You have a special teams coordinator who's your head coach right now, a tight end coach who is running plays, three-fourths towards the end of the season. And Russell Wilson looked better. Could you imagine if they would have had an entire long stretch to actually build on this offense? You have to give credit where credit is due.
Russ is fixed.
I don't know if we can go that far, James. He's better. He's on his way.
So wait, we're hiring Jerry Rosberg then, right?
No.
He comes right.
No. But even with so many of the same incompetent coaches there, just getting rid of the biggest whatever of the bunch helps so much. I'm trying to watch my words here when it comes to Nathaniel Hackett. Imagine what this team will be when they get Jim Harbaugh, Sean Payton, somebody who knows what they're doing. I mean, listen, if you don't come away from today excited about the possibility of Russell Wilson and Jerry Jeudy and Cortland Sutton, and hey, there was Albert O running around. I mean, they got rid of a guy who didn't play Albert O because he was too athletic. I mean, come on now. Reason for optimism, DMac. Get on board.
Alberto had 1 target for 0 catches today.
He was wide open. The rest of one bad pass Russ made.
Well, he only tried 24 passes, so he made 13 of them. So there you go. You got me on that.
They still also have a very bad offensive line. I know you can't put all the blame on him because Russ does some things that are in question, but his offensive line does not help him at all either.
Listen, you guys, you're right. This is the offense they should run. 36 rushing attempts to 24 passing attempts. You got to minimize Russ, and you got to keep the passes that Russ throws risk-free. And when you throw deep, they're the least riskiest of all the passes. Fine. What you saw here today, more or less, is how the Seahawks were trying to manage Rush in the last couple of years when his play had started to decline. So go ahead, do it. But listen, you got to tell me, too, you're going to get, bad play from the other team, and they're going to cough up the ball and make their own mistakes, which they did. I got to tell you, right now, as good as Patrick Surtain, team MVP was, the defensive MVP of this team is Justin Simmons. I mean, this guy had a huge hand in anything good that happened in any of the Broncos wins this year.
I agree with you on that. But listen, you can't. So now you're mad that they ran the ball too much? That they gave
No. I don't care. Listen, I get it. Listen, the whole thing is about trying to put Russell Wilson in the box that he fits in to work well. That's just, It's fine. It's all good. Here's what'll happen. But James, I'm telling you, here's what'll happen. Defenses will sag back, okay? Secondaries will play further back. And you're not going to get defenses that are just going to be okay with the bombs away approach. I think Staley may have made a mistake with his team because he was just putting them in a weird mental state like that. This was a really competitive game. You really could have sold this to your team like, we're going to play as hard as we can in the first half, and then whatever happens, happens. They were terrible. I mean, they were terrible.
But listen, here again, I guess I'm turning into the defender of Brandon Staley. You go through the entire week preparing to play the game one way. You don't know how the Bengals-Ravens game is going to turn out, so you have to be ready to play everybody. And then you just can't go, oh, never mind. You 5 guys don't have to play, but the rest of you do. You're not important. Like it's not that easy to just say, nope, we're just going to punt on this one. But listen, I think the Broncos the last 2 weeks have found the formula not to hide Russell Wilson, which is what you seem to be implying, but for winning football. I mean, Walmart, Derrick Henry was great again today. He was really good. That's what you got to do. Hand the ball off, run the football, have some balance, get him on the move, like doing all the things we said for 14 weeks to do. And then when they do it, now we're still mad. I mean, I don't get it. I don't get it.
There's nothing to be mad about. It's all good. They won the game. Everybody's going to have an entire offseason of I told you this would work. And I know it was Hackett's fault. And maybe, listen, despite my realistic take on it, I think we want to live in some sort of Russell fantasy land. And if we want to dance rainbows and sprinkle fairy dust in that world, then who am I to come in with a snowblower and wipe it all away? So if you really believe in the things you're saying, you're excited about the offseason, you'll be fired up for Sean Payton or Jim Harbaugh, I guess, and you cannot wait for a 35-year-old Russell Wilson to do this game in and game out.
Okay, well, let me just ask you guys this. If Jerry Rosburg is the coach for 17 games and Justin Alton's calling plays, what's this team's record?
That was going to be my question. Would they be inching into the playoffs if they could?
7-10. They would be 2 games better.
All right. I think what Rachel is hinting at there is closer. I mean, 9-8 made the playoffs, right? So, 4 games. I mean, look at all the games they lost by 1 score. If you win half of them, you're in the mix. And again, Jerry Rosburg is no miracle worker. He's just competent. Like, he's simply competent. I don't think he should get the job. I'm not losing my mind with, Rosburg mania, but he was competent, which just shows you how unbelievably incompetent Nathaniel Hackett was. I think even those of us who thought he should go, which I think is all of us, probably didn't quite realize just how bad he was. He was the worst coach in Broncos history, and it ain't close. It ain't close.
I'm going to do a lot of laying back here because listen, if I just lay back a little bit and just sort of roll with the punches, then okay. And you know what? We're in this situation. It's not going to change. They didn't fire George Payton. They're bringing Russ back next year. All right. That's cool. And you know what? You got enough today to have that conversation for the rest of the year. So, hey, cool, man. Come on back, Russ. I'm all for it. Come back. Start hucking the ball up deep. I mean, those were all passes, today, right? You get that. That's what the offense was today, just hucking the ball up there, and it paid off. It absolutely paid off today. How many deep passes were there? Holy cow. I mean, you had 57 yards to Jerry Jeudy, 52 yards to Freddie Swain, 20 yards to Cortland Sutton, Tyler Batty, 24 yards, 15 yards of throw to Latavius Murray. I mean, you had like huge plays on every gosh darn pass.
And yet you're still not happy with the way Russell Wilson has played today.
I'm fine. No, it was cool. It was cool how Russell Wilson would play today. It was fun.
So I guess just trying to get at what you're trying to say here, DMac. You don't think this is sustainable?
No, of course it's not sustainable.
Okay.
I mean, you're hucking the ball to Kingdom Come on every single pass. You don't think that's going to end up in interceptions, fumbles, other play? You realize you think that really is going to be sustainable, James? I mean, look at all
what they did today, where you run the ball in and things work off of each other and things are complementary and you're setting up the pass through the run, yeah, I do think that's sustainable.
And also, let's not forget, DMac, you just listed 4 wide receivers, and 2 of them I feel like I had never heard of until today during the game.
Right.
The surrounding cast is not what we expected it to be at the beginning of the season. Like, you guys, next year we get Tim Patrick back. He's always like, I've been so excited to see him play. Again, we saw 2 names. I'm sorry, I'm not even gonna. I want to call him Swine. Like, I can't even think of what his actual last name is because we've never heard of it. Yeah, Swain. There we go.
Freddie Swain actually played football with Russell Wilson. I mean, he played with him on the Seahawks.
Let me ask you this: if you're Jim Harbaugh and you come in here and you don't draft a receiver in the first round, or you don't sign somebody or trade for somebody, pull a Tyreek Hill type move, who's your number 1 receiver heading into next year?
Oh, Jerry Jeudy. I mean,
right?
He's the best. He's the best player on the team.
And that's another thing that old Nate couldn't figure out. Couldn't figure it out. He continued to play Courtland.
Do you trade Courtland Sutton? He had his second touchdown of the season.
If you can. I mean, if it's possible, of course you do.
He's
you get Tim Patrick back, right?
He's a fine number 2.
Well, he's not even number 2. I mean, Tim Patrick would be your number 2.
Maybe.
And then in terms of a slot receiver, I mean, you guys tell me about KJ Hamler. Is he healthy or is he not healthy? Yes, no.
We don't know that about Tim Patrick either. I still think they need to add another weapon. I do think that with Latavius Murray, Javonte Williams, look, would it be great to go get some game-breaking back like Dalvin Cook or, a Christian McCaffrey who's versatile? Sure. But I think they can be fine with those guys. I do think they need another receiver that, keeps opposing defensive coordinators up at night. I do. Jerry Jeudy could turn into that. Could, but he's not there yet.
I can give you guys a bunch of good news from today.
I'm ready. Please.
They were 5-12 on third down, which is excellent. That's been lacking for them all year. They were, it was a push in terms of turnovers. Turnovers are killer. And Justin Simmons, my man, what a play to get that ball loose. So that's probably going to lead to a touchdown, certainly at least a field goal for the Chargers. Absolutely critical. To be able to actually stop the Chargers at the end of the first half, to even give yourself a chance was excellent. So the defense had some fine moments. They did allow 352 yards, which is nothing to sneeze at. But this was a game where the defense was absolutely helped by the Broncos offense. What else? 471 total yards by the Broncos offense is absolutely excellent. That is fantastic. And rushing for 205 yards, listen, if you want to know how to win with Russell Wilson, you have seen blueprints in the last 2 weeks. That's fine. You have. They're tricky. It's a tricky way to win, but that is the formula. So, again, you can win. It's definitely against the grain of everything else going on in the NFL, what's happening here. But it did work. It worked 2 weeks in a row. And, yes, I think anybody with a brain in their head would figure this out. And, hey, good for Justin Out. And wouldn't it be interesting if they keep Justin Out around when they clear house? But Justin Out just had a couple of really good weeks calling the plays. No doubt about it.
They need to broom everyone. But I would have liked to seen a bigger sample size. I really would have. They averaged 15.5 points a game. 15.5 with Hackett, 27.5 with Justin Houghton and with Jer Bear. Now, again, it's 2 games, one of which, admittedly, their opponent, even though they played the starters, it didn't mean anything to them. But that's a pretty big differential. It's hard to just ignore that. I would have loved to seen it for 3, 4, 5, 6 games and seen if the effect was real. Because, it's a small sample size. It could be skewed. But I am completely confident saying that it – and look, not that Russell Wilson wasn't part of the problem, not that George Payton's roster wasn't part of the problem, but I am completely confident saying Nathaniel Hackett was the number 1 problem for this team. Number 1. And it started in the offseason, went into training camp, went into preseason. He was clearly the biggest problem. Jer Bear proved that.
You still have DMac. Do you still have him as number 4? Is that why you're holding up your little pinky right here going like?
He's a problem, but he's the 4th problem. He's the pinky finger. But let me give you this. And for Jerry Rosburg. 3 penalties for 36 yards. Wow. For the most penalized team in the league to only come up with 3 penalties, gargantuan difference. Fantastic. Good job.
DMac.
I mean, everything that they did poorly with Hackett was essentially fixed in the last 2 games, right? Like penalties went down, just the way that complimentary football, to channel my inner Jer Bear. They shot themselves in the foot a little bit today. The fumble on the punt was bad, but just looking like an intelligent football team versus a team that continually beats themselves. I just think that a lot of it, and again, it's 2 games, so it's not a big enough sample size, but boy, those 2 games were so distinctly different than the first 15. I don't know how you can continue to have it be your pinky finger. I really don't.
Also saw like a couple of early on business decisions, right? Justin Simmons, when the Chargers came down for their first touchdown, he didn't go like super hard to try and get, was it Eckler out? Like, that's just, hey, this is week 18. I'm just here because I'm playing. But then it became more competitive because it became an actual game. Like, if that would have been a, hey, we need to try and make the playoffs by this win, I guarantee Justin Simmons would have made a much harder hit than he did. I want to say it was on Eckler, but I'm not 100% sure. So I think we did see a little bit of that early on today too, which Broncos still got the win. So I say that it's a positive thing almost of, hey, they were able to put together things even when players were making those types of decisions.
Well, yeah. Justin Simmons had 10 tackles, 7 solo, and forced a fumble. So okay, maybe we go back to the beginning of the game. Fine, but that's
my point. It's almost a good thing, right? The fact that they weren't playing 100%, like that just leads you to believe that next season, when they do possibly, and they're starting to win games and they have faith in their offense, maybe that defense even shows up too a little bit more. Again, I can't blame the defense on anything, but I'm just saying you're going to see a little bit harder hits, which ultimately will lead to better football all around too. That makes sense?
All right. Hey, let's go Broncos. Let's go, baby. When do we start training camp? When do OTAs start? When do we go in minicamp? When's field day?
And look, I'm not going to say that we're 12-5 now, but what would we be saying if they'd have lost 30-7 today, and they had 9 penalties, and Russ threw 3 picks? We'd have been burying him. So, you can't bury him if they play that way and not give him any praise when they play the opposite and just say, well, it didn't mean anything to the Chargers. Well, okay, tell that to Mike Williams. I mean, it sure seemed like it meant something to the Chargers. So I just think that there are some positive takeaways. There are some things to look at from the last 2 weeks where you say, hey, if Jim Harbaugh comes in here, hypothetically, the cupboard isn't completely bare. He's not dealing with a quarterback who is cooked. There are some things to work with here and a pretty darn good defense. And you know what? You can turn things around quick in the NFL. I just think it's gone from hopeless to hopeful. Why would we not embrace that?
Look at the Jags.
I spent all week praising Jerry Rosburg and saying how cool it was. And I had some sort of emotional attachment and wanted to hug on Friday at his last press conference. I can't even imagine what's happening right now. I mean, it's got to be it is kind of, listen, I'll give you that. You want to talk about awesome moments. The legend of Jerry Rosburg. I mean, we are going to be singing songs about Jerry Rosburg and poems. There's going to be town criers, rolling things out. Hear ye, the tales of General Jerry Lee Rosburg. I mean, it's legendary. It is actually, in a wild time, a bad season, we did just experience a legendary 2 weeks of, do you remember when? And then we will tell the tale of Jerry Rosburg.
No, I'm with you. But in all honesty, I mean, not only did he walk into a bad spot because of how poorly the team was playing, but the staff that he inherited was all the guy who just got fired. That's all his buddies. And he's trying to get those guys on the same page and get them heading in the right direction and keep players from checking out and making business decisions. I think Jerry Rosburg did a fantastic job. Doesn't mean he should be in the hunt for the head coaching position, but all in all, I mean, if you had to give a grade to Jer Bear,
A+.
It's an A+. Yeah,
A+. And he saw problems and he corrected them immediately. Yes. And yes, okay, you're right. I mean, listen, it's still a problem. It's a pinky problem, but it's still a problem. and Hackett didn't quite get it. I mean, he really didn't get it. And so perhaps with a little bit more focus but like, how do you correct all these problems with Russ if you don't go through all of the problems that they've had? How do you get a moment of realization for this guy if things actually didn't work out? So listen, again, and I'm rolling my eyes at it, but if you want to support Russ, perhaps the best thing that happened is what has happened to humble him. If he had a modicum of success trying to roll out, let Russ cook, perhaps he would be less accepting of making changes in the future. So I get it. If you want to talk about the most positive of all positives, it's listen, Russ, don't you want to have more games like this? And if you do, this is how we're going to have to play, which of course is exactly how the Seahawks handled Russell Wilson.
And it's a good point, DMac. He did get a very humbling experience, and I think too, Broncos country will always remember that anytime some celebrity or star comes in, because we all welcomed him with open arms and said, hey, you're going to the playoffs for sure. Hey, you can win a Super Bowl. So I think Broncos country will definitely remember that for sure. But this conversation does continue on tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. These two will join me on coffee break. Come hang out with us. And James Merlot says to sweep everybody out of the building and start completely new. Evero. Let's find out why. We'll see you guys tomorrow morning, 10:30 a.m. Bye, everybody. Have a wonderful Sunday, and we'll see you guys then. Bye, everybody. Broncos win. Heck yeah, everybody. Woo!